meeting and welcome everybody. The meeting will be live streamed for public viewing and will be uploaded after the meeting together with a decision sheet showing the decisions taken at the meeting. If necessary, the press and public will be asked to leave the proceedings after the public business if there is a requirement to consider exempt entities. Just to note, it was necessary to make a change to the original agenda, moving the covering report from the FCR 7168 from the exempt part of the agenda into the public part. An updated private pack was issued to members on the 7th of March. Are there any apologies for absence? No, we're all here, but it looks of it. No urgent items of business. Are there any declarations of interest, new declarations of interest? You declared? No. Thank you very much. So that brings us then to the unrestricted minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of February. I could just draw your attention to the action tracker included in the agenda, which I don't think there's anything outstanding. One item is awaiting a report which has not yet been completed. Just to say, we'll just note the other items where issues have been resolved. My understanding of the arrangement is that resolved items will come off the tracker once we've been reported here. Okay, so unless there's any comments on any of those, can we, I won't go through the minutes one by one unless people want me to, but are people happy with the accuracy of the minutes?
Yeah, thank you.
Agreed then. Yeah, okay, so then item 7, Hackney Integrated Community Equipment Service report. And I think Charlotte Smith is going to introduce the report. Smith.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. So the report asked the committee to approve the recommendation for calling off a contract for integrated community equipment services from the London Community Equipment Consortium Single Provider Framework. The report recommends that the contract is for a period of 5 years with 1 year plus 1 year options to extend and would commence from the 1st of August 2023. The total estimated value of the contract for the council is 13.3 million, and the estimated annual value, with an estimated annual value of 1.854 million, rising to an approximate 1.975 million, subject to annual service review and available budget. Community equipment is a key preventative service which enables older and disabled people of any age living in Hackney to remain living independent and reduces the need for more formal and costly care. It's also a service that supports timely transfers of care from hospitals. The community equipment industry has been subject, as many other services, to national and global sustained inflationary increases. There's also cost pressures relating to increased demand for the service and complexity of need. The Commissioner's review of our community equipment service determined that one of the ways that we would be able to achieve better value for money and deliver a better and more resilient, high quality service would be by increasing economies of scale. The options appraisal identified the London Community Equipment Consortium as the best option for the council that would achieve the greatest value for money and resilience for our residents. The report also recommends that we retain the benefits of our current integrated service model by joining the consortium in partnership with our existing stakeholders from health, education and children's services. The recommendation supports the council to continue to meet its duties under the Care Act and Chronically Sick and Disabled Persons Act, and also our health partners under their NHS Service Act.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from or comments from members? Councillor Woodley, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to support the 5 year +1+1.
area I was sort of interested in, I think, was around the procuring green and the recycled items, and just picking up some of the feedback in the survey around perceived cleanliness or suitability of some of the equipment. And I wonder if there is within that KPI something about ensuring that equipment is refurbished and brought to a point where it's deemed of high quality, because I very much support the procuring green, aspect and recycling, but I'm just thinking about customer satisfaction, I suppose, to put it crudely, that they really do feel like they're getting the best equipment and that it is in a good condition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to follow on from that, actually, Councillor? No, can I just then say, just following on from that, and I noticed in the report that page 40 in the survey of the service that nearly 1 in 5 complained about poor quality equipment. So I just wonder if you'd link that with Councillor Woodley's question, to make sure that we can resolve those issues going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you for your questions. I completely agree that one of the key areas for any contracted service like this is the quality of equipment plus the ability to recycle our existing stock. We have had some performance issues with our incumbent provider, and we believe these to be one of the issues that affects that is the idea of having such a relationship with one provider. Given the difficulties that we have with supply chains, with even things such as the lockdown in China due to COVID, the availability of key equipment has become an issue over the last few years. One of the things that we believe will be better with the proposed new contract is not only the buying power, but the ability to share equipment, both recycled and new stock, with other 21 boroughs, and also share staffing. And we believe that one of the issues that we have seen those kind of quality issues coming up with the customer survey is a lack of staffing, a lack of running which affects the effectiveness of the recycled equipment service, and also just not having the stock available. So I believe that kind of increasing the economies of scale and being able to draw on increased staffing and available equipment and having that buying power, we should be able to improve both those areas. They are also, as you say, a key KPI, and we do have the opportunity at Hackney, when we call off the contract, to further define our own local KPIs. So that will obviously be noted as something of a key area for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Charlotte, thank you, and thanks for outlining that current difficulties to us. And actually, in the pre-meet, Councillor Chapman and I were recalling having been in the City and Hackney Health and Care Board, where I think it was you who touched on those very problems with the wider system. I do have a question, Chair, but it's about the map in the exempt appendices. So, Charlotte, just so you know, it's page 320, and when we go into part 2, I'm just interested in knowing about the wider system partners who are in the consortium. I'm not quite sure why it's in the exempt appendices, that map, but because it is, I don't want to ask the question in this bit, and I'm reserving it till later.
I think if they're not commercial sensitive, if it's just about the partners, I think it should be okay for you to ask the question. Because as you said, I'm not quite sure where we have it in the exempt appendices. If it's not commercial sensitive information, then you might be able to ask. But it's up to you if you want to wait for the second part of the meeting.
I'm not certain enough that it isn't. Sorry.
So, sorry, I had trouble hearing quite a lot of that.
Sorry,
You're
we
asking
have-
whether to ask the question now or.
Well, no, we'll have to go into part two to be
Okay.
safe. Sorry, but I
Right,
have
so-
told Charlotte what page number I'm asking about.
Right, okay, brilliant. Right, so that means we should either do that now or it'd be easier to do it now, wouldn't it? Yeah, and then we can make,
The
and then we can
president
come back to the decision rather than.
So,
Councillor, sorry, Deputy Mayor Bramble.
Chair, may I suggest that you take all of the exempt discussions after you close the formal meeting, Chair, but we'll be guided by your chairship, but that's my suggestion.
Okay then. So are there any other questions or comments on the open part of the agenda? Okay, so I presume we then also have to defer the decision to the confidential bit as well. Okay then, so to move on then to item 8, the SEND DPS transportation. And I believe Joe Wilson is going to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chair. This paper is seeking approval to award contracts for special needs home to school transport, including with or without passenger assistance, ad hoc taxi journeys for children and young people with SEND and service users via a dynamic purchasing system, DPS. The contract will allow providers to join the DPS on an ongoing basis throughout the life of the contract. We're hoping this brings in certain efficiencies for our services, so that the providers on the DPS can pass via applying to go onto the DPS, and this will make our in terms of us routing journeys for children and people a lot more straightforward for us. Due to the nature of the DPS, we are seeking delegated authority to enable various teams across the council, so the Children and Family Services, the Integrated Learning and Disability Service, Adult Social Care and Hackney Education, the authority to award routes under the DPS. And as I said, we are hoping that this brings in efficiencies and streamlines the process for awarding contracts for our children and young people with special needs. So in the recommendations that we are seeking is that providers listed in Appendix A who passed the supply questionnaire and the minimum quality score are admitted to the DPS system for the lot they have applied for and have been evaluated against. It's recommended that the head of SEND is granted delegated authority for the admission of further providers throughout the course of the contract, which is three years plus 1. And it's recommended that the subsequent routes and ad hoc journey requirements and the associated spend are approved as outlined in the paper as per the scheme of delegation for individual teams. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this report? Councillor Kennedy?
I'd just like some reassurance about the KPIs and that KPIs and feedback on the service will be sought from service users. I did make a note of a page number where the KPIs were. Thank you. That's right. So at the bottom of 65, we talk in the methodology on the KPIs that we'll get feedback from users, but the performance measure is about arriving at the specified time. And so that's they sort of don't relate to each other, if you see what I mean. And I'm thinking of KPIs where you seek, I've seen KPIs where you look at user satisfaction or resident satisfaction, and you have a certain percentage are satisfied with the service or something like that. And that's kind of what I was expecting to see. And I wonder if these are still a work in progress, or I don't quite understand how talking to residents and users then fits into the KPIs. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's definitely something we can work through to make more robust. What we do hear from families generally is that taxis, if we look at taxis, which is the main use of transport for some of our families, taxis not turning up on time is a particular problem for some of our families, and this is what we see lots of complaints about. So I think that's why it was aligned with that, but we can certainly develop that further.
Mr. Kennedy?
Is there any way we can write that in? Do you see what I mean? Like, could we agree that user feedback will be built into KPIs? Is there enough scope within our decision making to add that?
I will defer to my procurement colleagues on that. I think we should be able to.
Yeah, Joe, I've spoken to the procurement officer who worked with you on this procurement, and what she's told me that yes, this can be included as part of further discussion with the suppliers.
Okay, so we can do that. That okay, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, thank you. We're happy to do that.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments on this report? Okay, I was just going to, yeah, but a very similar sort of line on the sustainability parts of the report, and just I could see in the procuring green bit that we are what do you say that your providers were required to outline their current fleet makeup and commitment to use the development of low emission vehicles or alternative fuels in order to reduce the impact. Is there, I mean, have you got any KPI on that, or some sort of process in place to try and get better compliance with that over time?
That's definitely something we want to build in. We were talking about this earlier, actually. So one of the things we were going to do was ask for specific clarification from providers and drill down a bit deeper on the operation of their fleet and which vehicles meet those standards.
Okay, perhaps it's something, I mean, if you do that, perhaps it's something we could have an update on in the future. It'd be great to go along with the other issues that have been raised. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, if we can then move then to subjects, well, not noting the requests that we've made earlier, if we could then move to the recommendations in section 3, aren't I? Which is to well, agree the recommendations are set out in section 3.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you very much. And 9, insurance provision. The report, yes, is not available now. There's still some more work to be carried out to finalise the situation, and we'll be receiving a report on that in due course, but not tonight. So if you can note that. Item 10 is the provision of advice and support to single homelessness, and I think Leila Gillespie is going to introduce the report. Ms. Gillespie.
Sorry.
Chair, that'll be Ian Jones. Ian Jones will be introducing the report.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman, for the opportunity to present the report. Some basic, very background, as you will be aware, that the service has been offering the greenhouse service operates out of Tudor Road. It's a commissioned service that the council's had in place since 2007 and covers advice and support on housing and related issues for single people particularly. as opposed to the more family orientated work the council deals with directly. The issue with regards to the greenhouse service itself is it's been contracted and commissioned to a provider and has now come up for renewal. We have conducted an exercise to tender for a new supplier, or to invite people to apply to tender for this position. Following an assessment, we've been able to identify a core provider who can deliver, we believe should be contracted to deliver the service. Basically, what we're asking is for the council to approve the award of the provision of advice service to this provider for 3 years, with an option for an extension of an additional year. With regards to some background on the service itself, as I said, the greenhouse is the advice service that we provide for our single residents and those who approach the council who have without any children, and the reason we commission this as a separate service as opposed to part of our general needs is that the providers can give them an additional support and a guidance that we couldn't necessarily access as a local authority. So by commissioning a third-party provider, they have access to other opportunities that we as a local authority couldn't necessarily deliver directly.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions on this, Councillor Woodley?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to find the right bit. I'm noting in 5.6 the increase in individuals with multiple and complex needs and younger people that are coming forward, and actually it's a common theme across all 3 reports tonight. In my mind, around training and ensuring that we understand the areas of complex needs where we've seen an increase, particularly around autism, I know, but perhaps other areas of neurodivergence and sort of social, emotional, mental health, and if there is a consistency of training across services around this. And then I also have a question for the exempt papers, if that's okay, if we can take that into part 2.
Do you want to address that one, Mr. Jones?
Certainly. With regards to the training and responding to individuals with complex or multiple needs, I absolutely accept that there is a rising level of demand, and we attempt to, as part of our process of this, is to get as wide a ranging understanding and training. And part of the commitment that we have with, or the organisation that we are suggesting take over, is that they are part of that commitment and training, and will actually be able to deliver some training and advice to the wider service. And indeed, what part of the contract requirements will be, or what part of the contract commitment is, that they will deliver training sessions both internally and externally, and training materials in order that we can extend the understanding of complex individuals and their individual needs. We always look to deliver a trauma-informed and personal care service that reflects increasing needs and complex needs. And part of our training program, or part of the training program this contractor will provide, that the contractor has offered as part of their tender, includes training in and sharing of information and understanding across the not just the service that they are delivering, but much wider and beyond that into the council as a whole.
Thank you. Just for clarity, I'm happy to support the question for the exempt papers is a technical one, really.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I think we should defer consideration of the recommendations until we've dealt with the exempt bits. So if we just move on, there isn't any more unrestricted business I'm aware of, and the next meeting will be on the 17th of April. So we'll move in a minute into the exempt part of the agenda. But if I could just thank all the officers who were involved in preparing our reports for tonight, and the work in procurement, all the important services that we've dealt with. So thank you very much. So if we can now move that the press and public be excluded from the procedures of the Cabinet Procurement Committee during the considerations of the exempt items, and on the grounds it's likely, in the view of the nature of the business to be transacted, that were members of the public to be present, there would be a disclosure exempt information as defined under paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A to Local Government Act 1972 as amended. We agree with that.
Agreed.
Mario, could you stop the live stream, please? Thank you.